Food should not make you feel tired, irritated, addicted, or sad. It's supposed to energize you, free you, and connect you with the deeper parts of yourself and the larger reality from which food and you originally emerged, nature. You want to change your situation, get back your time and energy, and become the person you were meant to be? Then return to nature. Eat real foods, the foods that your brain was designed to eat. This is episode number 3, 10 more foods that your brain loves. In the previous episode, you already learned about lots of brain foods like broccoli, onions, garlic, fish, walnuts, olive oil, coconut oil, avocado, blueberries, eggs, and sweet potatoes. You also learned about some commonly shared principles behind these foods and why your brain loves them. To recap a bit, they reduce inflammation, feed your microbiome and mitochondria, supply you with various nutrients like vitamins and minerals that your brain needs and loves, and improve your neurochemicals. There are so many different angles to hit the topic of brain nutrition and brain health from bacteria, energy, electricity, inflammation, and on and on. Think of these not as entirely different systems, but as parts of a single interconnected system. They are threads of the same web, players on the same team, windows to the same room, different lenses for looking at the same phenomenon. They work in concert with one another, all either lifting each other up, building an overall stronger body and you, a better brain, or dragging each other down, weakening the whole organism called you. What is good for one part of your body is conveniently often good for all of your body. That's super convenient. What is good or bad for one system, such as the nervous, digestive, or endocrine system, is often good or bad for all the systems, together resulting in one final product: your overall mood, perception, energy, and health. One way you can change that end product is by increasing the quality of the raw materials that you put into your body. Today, we'll continue to use the previously used lenses such as inflammation, bacteria, and neurochemistry, but we'll also add in a couple more, such as water, blood oxygen flow, and a bit of spirituality. Woo! The more perspectives from which you can imagine and think about how food is affecting your brain, the easier it will be to remember and actually use all of this. Let's get started with the next 10 foods. Food number 1, celery. It doesn't have much in terms of calories, so what is it even made of? Mostly water. About 95% of it is water. That's a higher water content than almost any other food on the planet. A lot of vegetables and fruits contain a lot of water, though. Other of the highest water sources include lettuce, bok choy, radishes, cucumbers, zucchini, and tomatoes. These are also each about 95% water. Most vegetables are at least 90% water. And why is this important? Water represents and is essential to all of life. Obviously, without it, this earth would be one big, dead, dry, ugly ball. No plants, animals, bacteria, or even viruses would exist. For the first 90% of Earth's history, all living things lived in the water. It is our ultimate mother, our original home. That's probably why we always go back to the ocean and seek it. 71% of the earth is still water. The average plant is about 90% water. The average animal, 70% water. And average human, 60% water. Our most important organs have and need even more H2O. Between 70 to 80% of the heart is water. The same is true for the lungs, liver, kidneys, muscles, skin, and brain. Without proper hydration, these body parts just cannot function properly. So yes, drinking more water is one of the biggest and most obvious brain hacks. Just notice how you feel when you're hungover. God, that's freaking horrible. Even dehydration, equal to just 2% of your body mass, leads to a noticeable decrease in your mental and physical performance. I don't need to tell you this. And even better than water from the sink or bottle is water from actual once living or still living things. Packaged together with electrolytes and other vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, foods like celery provide you with living water. Your body, your brain just sucks it right up like a sponge. So here's another rule of thumb. The more water a food contains, generally the better it is for you. Your brain is one of the most water and oxygen hungry organs, so feed the beast. Pump it up. Speaking of oxygen, celery also contains a phytochemical whose name I cannot pronounce, and I'm not even going to try, that relaxes and opens up your blood vessels, thus increasing blood flow and getting all the good stuff, the nutrients, into your brain, and bad stuff like heavy metals and toxins out of it even quicker. And as you might guess, when there is a blood flow problem in one part of your body, you almost definitely have a blood flow problem in a lot of other areas too. So foods like celery, beets, cayenne pepper, garlic, cinnamon, turmeric, and oregano not only help shuttle oxygen and nutrients into and toxins out of your brain, but they also do the same for everywhere else. Your heart, lungs, skin, and bow, waka, wow, wow. Aside from water, the rest of celery is largely made up of fiber. Yep, that's food for your good bacteria and hence energy, not only for your second brain, the gut, but also your head brain and heart brain. That's right, your nerve cells run not only through that thing in the top of your head, but also through your digestive tract, heart, and other secret places. These places connect to and speak with one another through the various highways in your body, and a lot of that communication begins in the gut. So build it, feed it, nurture it, protect it! Next up, dark leafy greens. This includes foods like kale, spinach, bok choy, arugula, rapini, collard greens, mustard greens, and Swiss chard. Green means go, 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 go. These babies will fire up your engine, turning your brain into a high-speed race car. They are packed with magnesium, reducing anxiety, full of prebiotic fiber, feeding your gut buddies, overflowing with water, giving you that inner bath and keeping you alive and fully functioning, reducing inflammation, putting out your internal fires, and reducing your stress. In terms of both brain health and overall health, most of what you eat should be healthy fats and plants. That brings us to number 3, some of the original plants, algae. Don't just go slurping up slime from the swamp though. Not all algae is edible. The kind we're talking about here are algae like spirulina, chlorella, and seaweed. Microalgae like these are the oldest foods on Earth, first appearing over 1 billion years ago. Seaweed is a bit newer, arriving 800 million years or so ago. But who cares about the exact numbers? This stuff is ancient and so simple. Pure sun energy. Take chlorella, for example. It is a single-celled green algae that reproduces like a minimalist, like a Spartan, needing only CO2, water, sunlight, and a tiny bit of minerals to reproduce. It is one of the most photosynthetically efficient plants on the planet. It stores up to 8% of the sunlight that it receives. That might not sound like a lot, but compare that to the average plant that keeps only less than 1%. What? Only 1%? The reason behind this efficient absorption of energy is in the name, chlorella. It has the highest chlorophyll content in the world. Chlorophyll is what makes plants look green. The greener, the more chlorophyll. So it's also, of course, in those dark leafy greens we just talked about. It's what allows plants to absorb energy from the sun and share it with the world in the form of food. So chlorella is a very clean fuel, close to the original mother source of energy, the sun. Eat it up. Become a solar-powered man. It does a lot of things. Reduces blood pressure, removes toxins, and boosts energy. One reason for this is because it has a lot of vitamin B12, which, along with many of the B vitamins, is very important for energy production in the brain and, well, everywhere else in the body. Vegans take special note of this because it is one of the few plant sources of B12. Without it, your brain cannot produce the energy that it needs, resulting in tiredness and low overall mood. Chlorophyll is also an antioxidant, and not the only one that chlorella contains. It also has vitamin C, beta-carotene, that healthy stuff found in carrots, lutein, which is common in green leafy vegetables, and lycopene, the tomato's claim to fame. I'm a tomato, I have lycopene. It's about 60% protein by weight and a complete protein, meaning it contains all 9 essential amino acids. Actually, it has all the amino acids. It's got omega-3s too. Then there's its mixture of minerals, iron, copper, zinc, magnesium, and more. And that's not all. What? Chlorella binds to heavy metals like mercury, lead, and arsenic, as well as the junk from things like radiation and alcohol. It grabs these bad guys and kicks them out of your body, detoxing and cleaning up your brain, removing some of that brain fog and irritability, and increasing your focus, memory, and overall mood. Chlorella is one of nature's multivitamins, protecting and turbocharging your cells. Spirulina is another amazing algae. Well, technically it's a cyanobacteria or blue-green algae. It is the king of protein, clocking in at 71%. That's the highest of any food on this planet. Beef, for example, is only about 25% protein, if you're lucky. Of course, you're not going to eat or even find a steak-sized brick of spirulina, but still, spirulina overall has a similar nutrient profile as chlorella. You can think of it as a multivitamin. You can think of them both as multivitamins. You can have more than one multivitamin, that's fine. But it differs from chlorella in a few ways worth mentioning. It doesn't have quite the same heavy metal binding, detoxifying abilities. It is also a bit lower in omega-3s, vitamin A, iron, magnesium, zinc, and more. It does have some copper, which is needed for energy production, neuron signaling, and brain health and development in general. So while chlorella might be slightly more powerful, both are fantastic. They're more used like supplements than as actual foods though. The most commonly eaten algae is seaweed, nori or kim being the most popular. That's the dried, flat, thin seaweed paper kind of snack, especially popular in Japan, Korea, and East Asia in general, but also places like Scotland and Wales. Other kinds of seaweed include kelp, kombu, wakame, and dulce. Whichever variety you choose, seaweed in general has a lot of vitamin B12. And remember, this energy-providing vitamin is extremely rare in plants. It also has omega-3s, as well as a bunch of antioxidants and a lot of the same minerals as chlorella and spirulina. Oh, and I forgot to mention choline. My grandma, you're back from the dead. Oh, God. That nutrient also found in eggs, broccoli, and Brussels sprouts, which turns into acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that, for example, boosts your learning, memory, and attention. One extra thing to mention about seaweed is that it's also a source of fiber and polysaccharides, which help feed and grow your good gut bacteria. A happier digestive tract and happier brain. Yay! When your gut buddies are happy, you are happy. Just accept it. And drop your Homo sapiens ego. You are not as powerful or special or in control as you once thought you were. You are not even 100% human, and humans aren't all that anyway. You are like the president of a country or CEO of a company. That's pretty cool. It's pretty powerful, but, can the CEO really run the entire company all by himself? Does the president really run the country? In some ways, yes, but it's the overall population of employees and citizens that really run the show. Think of your rational brain as the leader and the bacteria as the residents or employees, either running around breaking things or doing nothing, or working hard, building things, making you rich and happy. Create the right culture, one in line with your mission, values, and goals. Hire and generously compensate the good bacteria and fire the bad ones. Fill that office, your country, your body with the right guys. Whatever success you want in life, you cannot get there alone. Ignore your bacterial situation and your brain and life in general will likely suffer. Manage your bacteria correctly and everything in your life and health will get 20 times or 100 times easier. So call up Mr. Chlorella or Mrs. Dulce and bring him in for an interview. Oh, wait, you can't do that. You can't hire employees and whistle at them. Anyway, why not give these algae an internship or full-on hire them even? You are a growth company with unlimited potential. Don't be scared to try new things, even if they're gooey, yucky-looking things from the sea. That reminds me, I have a kind of quick story. When I just moved to Korea in 2012, my boss bought me some kimbap, kind of sushi rolls, but then warned me. He was like, you might not want to eat it because it has the word weed in it. I was like, weed? That's not the problem. Anyway, Korea, Japan, and Asia in general are full of so many weird brain foods. If you're lucky enough to live in a city like LA, New York, or San Francisco that has Asian supermarkets, go and try some of those new things that you find there. And on that note, let's move on to food number 4, fermented foods. That's more of a category, but there are too many precious foods in this category to choose just one representative. You're all winners. Congratulations, fermented foods. You're all so good to my brain. Kimchi, natto, sauerkraut, yogurt, and kombucha are some of the big ones. These are all packed full of actual bacteria, so they're called probiotics. When you eat these foods, you're literally inserting good bacteria into your body, repopulating your gut, going on a massive hiring spree, bringing in new gut employees like there's no tomorrow. Probiotics, which you get from fermented foods, are, to make another metaphor, like little tiny babies or seeds. You cannot just invite such delicate creatures into your life and then just ignore them. That's where the previously mentioned prebiotics, the fiber, comes into the picture. Prebiotic fiber is like the food, water, and nutrition that feed and grow those babies up. The more you feed them, the bigger and better things they can do for you. They can even then make their own babies.
Go forth and multiply. The kingdom of heaven lies inside your gut.
Let's take a quick individual look at each of these fermented foods and see what else they bring to the table. First, let's look at natto, spelled N-A-T-T-O. Fermented soybeans. Yummy! if you can find a way to eat this sticky, stinky stuff, you will be rewarded. Along with being loaded with good bacteria, it's also the best source of vitamin K2. There are two kinds of vitamin K. K1, which is largely in leafy greens, and K2 in fermented foods like natto. It's the second form that is much better absorbed and used by the body. Sauerkraut also has K2, but natto has about 200 times more than sauerkraut. Vitamin K not only saves you from bleeding to death, oh God, but it also works closely together with vitamin D to make sure that calcium gets into your bones, which is where you want it, of course. Remember, everything in your body is interconnected, so strong bones, strong brain. And bone might look like a rock, but it's living tissue. If it's unhappy, it will communicate and spread that unhappiness everywhere else. Anyway, vitamin K2, good stuff. Natto is also a good source of tryptophan, which is, I'm not sure if you know this, the precursor to serotonin. We know that when we have more of the neurotransmitter serotonin, we feel calm and good. That's why MDMA and a lot of those antidepressant medications are so popular. But we don't want to have to rely on drugs, especially the super processed and addictive ones being concocted in labs by who knows who and who knows why. You can increase your serotonin, which gives you a sense of calm and relaxation naturally. While you cannot get serotonin directly from food itself, you can get tryptophan, which your brain converts into serotonin with the help of vitamin D. We already know that natto has a lot of vitamin K, and vitamin D are best friends. Consume them together to increase their powers. So to get the vitamin D, just get more morning sunshine. The sun is the number one best source of vitamin D. So you've eaten the kimchi, you've gotten the sunshine, and then voila, you've got serotonin. Well, not quite yet. Vitamin B6 is also needed in order for the brain to convert tryptophan into serotonin. So just also add in some fish, dark leafy greens, chickpeas, or lentils into your diet, and you've got your vitamin B6 prerequisite covered. Natto itself does have some vitamin B6, but not quite enough. It does also have a decent amount of vitamin B1, B2, and B9, also known as folate. The B vitamins in general, especially B1, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 12, that's a lot of Bs, increase your energy, enhance your mood, and improve your overall brain performance. I could go on and on about the benefits and the deliciousness of natto. Kimchi, which, as you all know, comes from Korea, and sauerkraut, which comes from Europe, are also rich in some B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin K, choline, potassium, and much more. Of course, these are all just a bunch of extra bonuses. The main punch and selling point of fermented foods is their probiotics. They are direct sources of good gut bacteria. A minute ago, we talked about how tryptophan gets converted into serotonin. Well, most of this serotonin production is done by the gut bugs themselves. You can never trust these numbers, but they say something like 95% of our serotonin is made in the gut. Whatever the exact number, your gut bugs are hooking you up, getting you high in a very good, healthy, and non-addictive way. You can't smoke natto or snort kimchi, but you can eat it. It'll take longer to kick in, but you will feel it from your head to your toes. And just imagine what you can do with all that extra energy and focus. That's where your creative power starts emerging, and you feel too energized and pent up to just stick with your slow, dull, ordinary, meaningless job or meaningless life. When your body and brain are fully charged, you stop being lazy, tired, pessimistic, and scared. The creative gods gravitate towards you, and magic begins to happen. Freedom and self-actualization begin to emerge. I know I sound nuts, but I felt it, and I know you have too. And worse, you've experienced the opposite, feeling drained, depressed, and stuck. There are many tools and resources to get you out of this hole and into the life you want. These include nature, silence, food, sleep, education, and more. Food is just one of the quickest, easiest, and most delicious tools. Okay, wow. Next up, food number 5, beets. Remember Doug Funny and Skeeter Valentine? They love the beets. I'm talking about that dark red root vegetable here. They're super popular in Russia and throughout Europe. They grow well in cold weather. Anyway, your brain loves them because, like celery and pomegranates, they increase nitric oxide, which opens up your blood vessels nice and wide so that all that good stuff, oxygen, water, and nutrients, can travel to and through your brain even more quickly. Just imagine you're at a water park and the tube you're in is all tiny and you can barely fit inside it. That's no fun, and neither is a body with tiny, tight arteries and blood vessels. Open up the floodgates. Let it flow. Eat your beets. Maybe make some fat beets on the drums while you're at it. Exercise also increases nitric oxide and blood oxygen flow, as does breathing through your nose. More blood to your muscles, improving athletic performance. Your little guy or little gal or remodeled mixed package or whatever downstairs is gonna thank you as well. The fun doesn't stop there. What? Beets deliver lots of good stuff to your brain. For one, they have betalains, which are some phytonutrients that help push toxins out of your brain, protecting your neurons, reducing inflammation. The vitamin C and other antioxidants in beets also help with this. It's also got a type of prebiotic fiber called inulin, which is also found in leeks, garlic, artichokes, asparagus, and burdock root. These are mostly root vegetables, you might notice. And dude, your body digs these things. Great for longevity. Just ask the naked mole rat. They're always munching on roots and tubers and feces, but let's forget about that. They live for like 30 years. That might not sound like a long time, but normally rodents only live for like 4 or 5, assuming the cat doesn't eat them first. Man, that's like 7 or 8 times what you'd expect. Is it because of the inulin and other prebiotics in the roots that they're snacking on, that they're munching on? I don't know, but inulin does feed your gut microbiome. It also helps your body better absorb calcium and magnesium. And yup, you also get these magical minerals from beets at no extra cost. Isn't it fascinating how nature often finds the nutrients that work in concert with one another and just conveniently packages them together in a single food, a single organism? No need to buy supplements and figure out which ones go well together. Just eat nature's pre-packaged multivitamins. And just as it would take forever to talk about every nutrient in your standard multivitamin supplement, it'd take me forever to talk about every nutrient in each of these brain foods. One last mention, though, before I go on, is manganese, atomic number 25 in the house. I never gave this mineral much thought before, but I've noticed it popping up in some of the foods in this episode, as well as last week's. For example, beets, natto, garlic, walnuts, kale, and others. What do we need number 25 for? Pretty much everything, but a little dabble do. It's a trace mineral like zinc, copper, and selenium. You don't need too much of it. Once you got just enough, though, your body gets better at metabolizing food and building and maintaining strong cartilage, bones, and sex hormones, as well as helps keep your energy levels up. Your brain can't run without it, which is true, well, for a lot of minerals. So if you're feeling lousy, get out your checklist of vitamins and minerals and make sure you're not missing any of them. Even just one missing ingredient can throw everything out of whack and sink the ship. Some of the most common deficiencies include magnesium, potassium, calcium, iron, vitamin D, some of the B vitamins like folate, B6, and B12. And man, this is another reason why between these 2 episodes, I'm giving you 20 plus foods. The best way to ensure that you're getting all your brain nutrients is to eat a variety of many different foods. Perfect timing now to get to the next one. Food number 6, another root vegetable, turmeric. I know, it looks like yellow powder, a kind of spice, but it's a vegetable, often crushed up and used as a spice, especially in Indian cuisine. Maybe I'm crazy or a cyborg or something, but I just skip all those fancy cooking steps and simply shovel spoonfuls of this yellow gold goodness into my mouth. Step 1, powder in the mouth. Step 2, wash it down. Step 3, munch on some black pepper kernels. Delish! Want to come over to my place for dinner? Or breakfast or whatever? No, I guess not. Anyway, I might be doing this wrong, though, because according to some research, the anti-inflammatory, anti-cancer, and anti-mental decline properties of curcumin, that's the main compound inside turmeric that makes it so good, are much more activated when you heat it up. That's true of a lot of spices, actually. Too much heat, of course, damages a lot of foods, and that's also the case with spices like turmeric, but it does want a little bit of heat, a little hot touch, a little bit of foreplay. Show turmeric some love. Toss it in your curry or eggs, or just mix it in some hot water and drink it. Your body wants it that way. It wants it that way. Tell me why. I can't tell you why. I'm busy making an episode. I'll tell you later. Oh, but dude, I got a story. A while back, I had a girlfriend. Yes, me. I had a girlfriend. Oh, that's the story. No. Anyway, she had this big fever. I put my hand on her forehead and I was like, oh my God, it's so hot. Then I ran to the kitchen and I made a little hot concoction of turmeric, black pepper, because that also makes curcumin like 200 times stronger. You gotta mix pepper with turmeric if you want to multiply its powerful effects. Anyway, I made that drink and maybe I think I tossed in some ginger or something. Anyway, she drank that and literally in like 10 seconds, her whole demeanor changed. She said she felt better. She was smiling. And then I touched her forehead and the heat was gone. It was like a normal, cool forehead. Whoa. Maybe it was a placebo. Maybe even then. I don't know. But who cares? It worked. I've noticed the same in myself. Whenever I'm feeling all agitated, addicted, and horny or out of control, unable to focus, or just sad, I go to old Yeller, old turmeric, and she rubs my back and calms me down. You know how some plants, like mushrooms, almost talk to you or communicate with you as they merge with you when you consume them? From my experience, so does turmeric and a lot of these foods I've been babbling on about, because there's something magical, almost alien or otherworldly happening with them. The gods are alive, and they have assumed the humblest of life forms. Freaking plants! Of all avatars, they chose the plant avatar. What? How beautiful is that? In Buddhism, there are these beings called bodhisattvas. Basically, these are people or creatures who, after many lifetimes of suffering, have finally reached enlightenment. But instead of then just enjoying their own salvation and entering nirvana or heaven or whatever you want to call it, they decide to return to this earth and use their powers and wisdom to help all the people who are still suffering. Why am I suddenly talking about all this? Because I believe that a lot of plants, like turmeric and fungi, which we'll talk about soon, are actually bodhisattvas. Dude, accept their love. They are trying to help you. And one last note about turmeric. It increases feel-good neurotransmitters, especially dopamine, serotonin, and norepinephrine, which probably partially explains why I love it. It gets you high, especially when you're pairing it with other happy chemical increasing things like cacao, tea, and coffee. That's because the curcumin in turmeric inhibits monoamine, how do you even say these words? Monoamine oxidases, or MAOs, meow, meow, which help maintain the proper balance of neurotransmitters in your brain, making sure there's not too much or too little. Therefore, curcumin increases and prolongs your levels of these neurochemicals. Generally, that's a good thing. Serotonin calms you down, and dopamine helps you focus and work towards something. But depending on your individual genes, biochemistry, and if you're on certain medications, it can become too much or even dangerous. For example, the first type of antidepressants introduced in the 1950s, were themselves MAO inhibitors. So taking turmeric could be overkill if you're taking those. Luckily, or unluckily, I don't know, SSRIs like Zoloft and Prozac, which are arguably safer, replaced the MAO inhibitors and became the norm in the pharmaceutical industry from the late 1980s. I think the first SSRI was introduced in 1987. But still, man, pharmaceutical drugs mess with your biology in so many ways. You got to be 100 times more careful with everything, even this simple nutrition stuff that I'm talking about, when you're already on pharmaceuticals. Everything gets much simpler and safer the closer you just stay with the natural sources. Either way, take note of your situation and how you feel after consuming turmeric or anything. How much is the right dose? And dose is the right word. It was traditionally used as a medicine in places like India and China. Always start with very small doses and build your way up. Don't get too crazy with the experiments on yourself, but experimenting is really the only way you're going to find the truth about your body and reality. I recommend maybe having a little brain health notebook with notes on 1, your hypothesis, how you think something is going to make you feel. 2, what you actually consume and at what time, generally. 3, how you feel throughout the day in terms of energy, focus, overall mood, etc. And 4, any other unusual activity or things such as weird sleep patterns, light or noise exposure, overconsumption of entertainment and media, or drugs and alcohol. I know this is a lot of work, but feeling better takes work. You might just get lucky and stumble upon happiness and a better life, but the more conscious and deliberate you are in this whole process, the faster and more efficient it will be. Okay, let's talk about mushrooms now. That's brain food number 7. I really should do a whole episode on this. I mean, there are tons of great podcasts dedicated just to this topic because it's important. Did you know that underneath the ground lies this vast network of mycelium, basically mushroom roots that connect the whole plant world together? It's like a big underground internet, allowing trees and mushrooms and plants to communicate with and share nutrients and other information with one another. To them, all this above ground stuff that they are creating, like animals and us, must seem like the metaverse, like some kind of virtual reality. The reality is down there, and all of this stuff, including us, is emergent phenomenon. Of course we're real, I know, but we wouldn't be if the fungi, plants, and bacteria didn't create us and continue to sustain us. When I was saying they are gods, it's not just because they are loving and healing and wise, but because they help create new organisms and new worlds like the one we're living in. Look at this beautiful earth. Look what they've done. Anyway, there are lots of different kinds of edible mushrooms. Portobello, shiitake, maitake, enoki, and then there are also the ones we largely use as supplements or nootropics like lion's mane, reishi, chaga, and cordyceps. Because I eat all of these, I feel like I don't even need coffee or tea or anything, though I do enjoy the extra boost occasionally. So I do indulge, especially on days off when I want to get a lot of work done, like today. Mushrooms are as diverse from one another as are vegetables or animals, but there are some common nutritional traits. They do act as prebiotics for the microbiome, so let's just get that out of the way. I had to say it. They're also generally rich in antioxidants and polyphenols and anti-inflammatory compounds, which help protect your brain, as well as B vitamins, which give you energy. They've got so many different vitamins and minerals. Another one of nature's multivitamins. A lot of them have also been shown to improve brain function from many different angles: memory, learning, overall mood, and they help protect against cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and so on. I could get into the individual differences between each mushroom, but just sample different ones, except for those bright blue and yellow ones sticking on logs in the forest. No. While only about 3% of the 5,000 or so different discovered mushroom species, only about 3% of them are poisonous. But still, the risk is too high. Don't play with it. Stick with the stuff from the supermarket, obviously. You think I wouldn't have to say that, but, Anyway, just try a bunch of different ones out and keep eating the ones that both taste good and make you feel good. You can learn how to like anything, though. So with some of these mushrooms and foods I've been talking about, don't be a baby and give up after one try. Within time, if you keep at it and you care enough about it, you will acquire the taste. When I first came to Japan about 10 years ago, I basically barfed up natto the first time I ate it, and now I eat like 2 packs a day. I can't get enough. Likewise, I used to hate mushrooms, even though they always loved me. Now, we're living together, deep in love, though I do make them sleep in the cupboard or fridge. Okay, on to food number 8, rosemary. This is food for your gut, as it has various different polyphenols, all of which your good bacteria eat up. Polyphenols also have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory properties and increase blood flow. Many spices, dried herbs, seeds, healthy oils like olive oil and coconut oil, and even cacao, which we'll talk about soon, have polyphenols. These are all good for your gut and brain. Remember, your gut is part of your nervous system. Your gut buddies help produce a lot of those calming, feel-good neurotransmitters like serotonin and GABA. These help counterbalance the stress or addiction that you might otherwise feel. Serotonin signals that you're safe and enough. It makes you feel relaxed, confident, social, and in control. So it inhibits the aggression, frustration, craziness, and addiction that you develop when you're too high on excitatory neurochemicals like glutamate and dopamine. GABA, which you can get when you feed your gut bugs with things like sweet potatoes, broccoli, spinach, kale, and rosemary, further decreases your anxiety and or depression. It relaxes you, slows you down. It's part of the code running in the background when you fall off to sleep or meditate. Rosemary does also increase dopamine, though. Sounds like the perfect natural medicine, a true mood power-up from nature. More alertness and focus, yet also calmness and relaxation. It also acts as an antimicrobial, fighting against nasty bacterial infections and skin problems like acne. Your gut loves it, your brain loves it, your skin loves it. Eat it raw or sprinkle it on some food. Next up, brain food number 9, bone broth. This is the real chicken or beef soup for the soul. The original Bone Thugs in Harmony. Bum, 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 bum. Soup of the bones and connective tissues of animals. And what do you get? All the nutrition that was stored in those bones and things. Calcium, magnesium, potassium, phosphorus, manganese, and other minerals. It's also got amino acids like arginine, glutamine, and glycine. What? Come on, what are you talking about, dude? Yeah, these are amino acids. Learn them, which are part of the antioxidant system and help reduce inflammation. Glycine is also used to make glutathione, a powerful antioxidant. Creatine, providing your muscles with energy, and collagen, which not only makes you beautiful, 70 to 80% of our skin is made of collagen. And it also makes up more of your gut than anything else. It builds and strengthens the gut lining. And remember, when you have a leaky gut, you probably also have a leaky brain, and therefore all kinds of junk and toxins that don't belong there will be hanging out in your brain. You'll feel like crap. The amino acids like glycine and glutamine help support your digestive tract. Glycine may also increase relaxation and improve sleep quality, helping put your body into that deep, restorative stage 3 sleep. Sleep is essential to brain health in obvious ways, so any food that improves your sleep is definitely a brain food. Other foods that are known to improve sleep include fatty fish, nuts like walnuts, almonds, and pistachios, kiwis, and cherries. Some of the worst things you can consume at night are caffeine, alcohol, and meat. Anyway, what else does bone broth give you? Overall, it's loaded with gelatin and collagen. About 90% of bone broth is collagen, which improves your gut, skin, and joint health. And it also has lots of essential fatty acids, vitamins A, K, and B12. All of this is great for your brain. In modern times, unlike even in our recent past, we don't eat enough parts of the animals. We think they're yucky. We usually only eat the muscles. That's what we call meat. But there's so much more nutrition in the other funky parts that we often just throw away. For example, bones. Organ meats like liver are also fantastic superfoods. When you provide your body and brain with natural, real forms of energy like bone broth, you'll likely find that you no longer need things like caffeine or sugar to keep you running. You can stop running on fumes, living energy check to energy check, and you can feel good all day long. Finally, food number 10, my favorite, cacao. Its actual name is Theobroma cacao, which translates to food of the gods. It all started in Central America, and like the Aztecs and Mayans, I drink it in the way that a lot of people probably drink coffee. And it's great because although it gives you energy and focus, it doesn't make you all jittery and cracked out like coffee sometimes does. I know I sound cracked out, but I don't feel it. I'm good. That's because it only has some caffeine. What it really has a bunch of is another stimulant, theobromine, which is chemically very similar to caffeine. Both of them plug up and block your adenosine receptors, making you stay awake, giving you energy, but it's a much gentler, slower, longer lasting, and less addictive ride. There's also a bit of it in green tea and yerba mate, which is part of why they also give you a pretty balanced high. It does increase dopamine, ramping up your motivation and focus because it contains the precursor to dopamine, the amino acid tyrosine. Tyrosine is also found in foods like fish, avocado, nuts, beans, and seeds. Tyrosine turns into dopamine, but in a more reasonable way. Not for hours and hours on end, like with video games, social media, gambling, or porn. And despite it being a stimulant and it raising up your dopamine, cacao also paradoxically helps you sleep because it also contains tryptophan, which triggers serotonin, further explaining the calming effects of cacao, counterbalancing some of that dopamine, and then ultimately, by the time night rolls around, the serotonin turns into melatonin.
Sweet chocolatey dreams.
Speaking of sweetness, though, and I know you've already heard this, but you don't really want to eat chocolate that is low in actual cacao content. That means white chocolate, milk chocolate, or even semi-dark chocolate. These are not really brain foods. Plus, they're often packed with other junk like sugar and vegetable oils. What you want is 100% cacao, or as close to 100 as your taste buds can handle. The darker, the more of the good stuff like theobromine. You can buy it in the form of powder or as cacao nibs, like tiny little pieces of chocolate. Make sure not to get the Dutch or alkalized cacao, though. If the Netherlands is written on the label, definitely don't buy it. That stuff's meant for baked goods and ice creams and junk like that. A lot of its nutrition has been stripped away, specifically its polyphenols, its flavonols. Natural cacao is lighter in color and more bitter, and often comes straight from South America or West Africa. If it says raw or organic on the label, you know you're good to go. I once accidentally bought a kilo or something of Dutch chocolate. I was so bummed. Oh my God. It's not the same. It's like the opposite of what I wanted and what your brain wants. Where are all my polyphenols and all the good stuff? I don't want this. Cacao has flavonols that help improve cognitive function, mood, gut health. It's a prebiotic. blood flow. Yeah, it increases nitric oxide, opening up your vessels, and it lowers your inflammation, blood pressure, and risk of developing mental problems. Cacao is packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. It's one of the best sources of magnesium, which is one of the most important nutrients for reducing our stress and calming us down. If you're feeling irritable or low in energy and nothing else is working, you likely need magnesium. It could also be that you're not getting enough vitamin D or you're missing some of the B vitamins, but magnesium is a common culprit. Pop some cacao and see if you feel any better. It also has a decent amount of manganese, phosphorus, and potassium, so those might also help. Wow, if you stuck through both of these 2 episodes, congratulations. You've completed this action-packed brain nutrition masterclass. Next time, let's take a break from all this food stuff and talk about something new. See you soon. If you enjoyed this podcast and want to hear more and know when the next episode is coming out, just remember to click follow on your favorite podcast app and you're basically good to go. Shaman, 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 brain shaman.